back to another episode of Wicked Darkness. I'm Kathy, your host, and with me tonight I have Steve.
Hello.
I have Heather.
Hi.
And I have Kevin.
Hello.
Steve, we're so happy to have you back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back. Believe me.
We missed you. We missed you so
Thank
much.
you. I appreciate that.
It's not Wicked Darkness without you, Steve.
You bring the darkness into our wickedness.
Yeah, that's what my wife says too. So.
Except today they can't see Steve's camera. He's got the wicked whiteness in the background.
I know.
Doesn't have the background, but that's all good.
It's all right. We'll keep that darkness going for you anyway.
That's right.
I don't know why I couldn't get that. It would come up and then it would just be gone. And
it's because we wanted to see the Rush behind you.
Yep. Rush 2112, one of the greatest albums of all time. Not that I'm advertising for Rush, but I am.
So. Not sponsored.
Fan. He's a huge fan.
Well, and by the way, I'm going to get a new tattoo, an Ozzy tattoo, and I'm taking requests from people. So all four of you think of what my new tattoo to honor Ozzy Osbourne should be.
Yeah.
And get it to me by the end of the week. Get it to me by the end of the week, and I will pick a winner, and there'll be a fine prize for the winner, selected especially for them.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice. Yeah. We did post a thing on our website, or I should say our Facebook page, our social media about Ozzy's passing. Huge hit for the paranormal world as well as the rock world. So he is very much missed. So anyway, tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about the Warren Occult Museum and the Warrens' home. That's been in the paper. I know we've been hemming and hawing about this whole thing. Should we talk about it? Should we not talk about it? And we finally just said, you know what? Let's just discuss this. Because it just came out of the blue for most of us. And it was like, what? What just happened here? As you guys know, the Conjuring world, they have a new movie coming out. So they've been touring and stuff like that. They have all this stuff going on right now, and it just felt like we should discuss things.
Well, and the hemming and hawing, I think that's important for folks to understand is Dan Rivera, one of their investigators, passed away while working on tour, and so there's this silence from Nesper and everybody else in the community that's around them. Nesper is the New England Society for Paranormal Research. That's part of the group that Dan and Tony Spera and Chris are in. But yeah, that happened, and then this just kind of happened, and there's all this sort of there's this pause from back then to now when we're talking today, and it's like, well, do you lean in and have the conversation? Is it too early? But then there's finally, I think it was last week, that Tony posted a short, hey, here's what's going on. And I was like, oh, okay, finally, there's something. So it takes a little bit of the speculation out of the finer details, because I know at first there was news and media articles out there about, now Matt owns Annabelle.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we found that to not be true with Tony's post. So it's been a lot of sensitivity going on to when's the right time.
I think it all started back when they were down in Louisiana with Annabelle. I think that's where everything blew up. It was Annabelle is loose. We can't find her.
That's right.
And then they had all these things happening in Louisiana. So the speculation was Annabelle did it. And then they're like, no, Annabelle is with us. She's fine. She has nothing to do with any of this stuff. And then it was just like a domino effect. And I think that's where everybody was kind of like, what just happened? So, Heather, you did a lot of research about this topic.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little backstory, the history of the Warrens?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ed and Lorraine Warren were a married couple that operated for decades as the preeminent voices for the occult community. Ed and Lorraine. Although Ed was not an official exorcist, he did participate in some exorcisms. He wasn't officially ordained by the Catholic Church, but he did practice in paranormal research and demonology for, tens of years. And then Lorraine, who was his wife, she was also known as a clairvoyant or a sensitive. And unfortunately, Ed had passed away in 2006, and Lorraine had passed in 2019. And so the museum that they had started in 1952 had closed shortly after her passing. Looks like building permits, kind of stuff going on there, so that the city itself had, deemed that the museum was no longer in operation for tours, but their home was still used for the Nesper paranormal research and sites, and they were often quoted using their home and museum, and a lot of their artifacts were still stored there until just recently.
Yeah. So, Ed and Lorraine, everybody knows that they're kind of like not the founders of the paranormal field that we have today, but yet they were kind of like the grandparents of this,
Yeah, the
for all of
pioneers.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, they came around at a time that people really weren't talking about the paranormal and stuff like that. You had said that Lorraine was a clairvoyant. For those of you that don't know what a clairvoyant is, it's somebody that can see things through their mind's eye, kind of like the future, the past, the present, and things that are going to happen that they're not sure is going to happen yet. She can sense those things. She could experience those things while they were investigating. So those were, or things that, would happen elsewhere. She would have those visions. And then Ed and Lorraine, they started this as a family. The two of them. Ed really, they've gone back to what, the 1940s they got married.
Yeah.
Right when Ed was being shipped out for World War II, they got married. They had one daughter, Judy. So it was a very small family, but they were very connected with each other. And they just grew their paranormal team into something that has now lasted for like 40 years now, 50 years. Ed he started things like going to these homes. He was a painter, an artist, and he would want to paint people's homes, and he would be drawn to certain homes as he claimed that they were haunted. And that was his foot in the door, I guess you could say, into the paranormal field, along with Lorraine having her psychic abilities.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How would he determine that these houses were haunted?
It was kind of one of those, I drive past something, it looks a little suspicious, I'm going to stop and talk to the owners, and then...
Right, because every house would have, weeds growing in front of them, I think, is haunted, so...
Right. Right? But that's what he said he did. He would just go, because they used to have like a little, kind of like a little show, a TV show in Connecticut with their son-in-law, Tony, Judy's husband, and they would talk about it and say, how he got involved in the paranormal field. And that's what he did, was he was drawn to certain homes, and he felt that, they were a little suspicious in his mind, that they looked haunted. And so he would go in and talk to the owners after he's already painted it and say, here's your home. I painted a picture of your home. And then he would be like, can I ask you a question? Do you have,
okay, I get it now.
Those kind of
Yeah.
things going on.
Yeah,
At least that's what I
Tony,
gathered from the show that they had. The little
yeah,
clips
that
on
was
TV.
Seekers of the Supernatural was their show, and I mean they even
Right.
ran it after it had passed. Tony was doing shows, if I remember right, on YouTube, because I follow and watch it. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's accessible. I mean, even if people are still curious. But yeah, I think that's where word of mouth started, because that show's been on for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and people would contact, Ed and Lorraine
Mhm.
because they have over 10,000 cases and they've got cases all over the United States. And I know they had some in Europe too.
Yep.
I can't remember where else they've had cases, but they've been all over the place.
And then they would go to different places and have presentations and talks and stuff like that to certain colleges and stuff and just different locations, paranormal, conferences or whatever.
Yeah,
And
they
then,
definitely tried to be sorry, they just tried to
no,
be definitely like educational when it came to
Yep. Oh
paranormal.
yeah.
It wasn't a lot of woo-woo with them,
mhm.
which I thought was, amazing for the time because so many people growing up in the Catholic Church, it was a lot of woo-woo demons are bad and, like if you get a manifestation of something, then automatically it's sin and you're going to hell and
Yeah.
there's no help for you and kind of like ripped the veil off of that, stigma.
I guess in a way they kind of did like the Catholic Church a favor so that the priest didn't have to go in and do all the background of what's happening, because they were the ones that would go in and document things. They were told, okay, we need to have this, this, and this in order to say, yes, there is something there at the home, and we would follow up with it, through the church. So I guess they did all the dirty work for the church.
So
Um,
did the church use them a lot? I'm sorry, I'm the question guy today.
no, you're fine.
Did
Um,
the church use them a lot?
yeah, well, yeah, I guess they would be contacted by different priests through not just their own church, but other churches as well. So I don't know how far up the chain of
Yeah,
command
that was my next
Catholic
question. So how
Church it
far?
went to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Is that
don't
just
know
going
how
through the
far it went
church?
up.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe, because they did, like Ed was involved with some of the exorcisms, not that he
Yeah.
did them, but he was
Yeah. Right.
involved with them. So I'm assuming the Vatican was aware of what they were doing because of the exorcisms
I would think
themselves.
so. You would think that would get back to them.
I would assume, but I
Yeah.
don't really, I don't know. I've never really gone that far into the history of it. I guess I'll have to look that up and
Hmm.
find out for sure. I know they've written tons of books.
Yep.
Anybody own any other books? No?
I
Can't say I
don't.
I
do.
don't either.
I guess we're gonna have to put that in the library too.
Hmm.
Okay.
Amazon wish list.
Right. The only thing I have of the Warrens, I bought a bracelet because Lorraine is a big advocate for animals. She would make bracelets back in the day when she was still alive, and then you would buy the bracelets, and the money would go to the local shelters and stuff like that for the animals. And so after her passing, Judy, her daughter, continued that on. And so
Oh,
I went and bought one of the bracelets. She uses her mom's beads still, and she makes the bracelets like her mom did. So that's the only thing that I own that was related to the Warrens. But um history of the museum. So the museum itself, when you watch the movies, the museum's in the house. But in actuality, the museum is not in the house. It's behind the house,
Is it
correct?
behind the house?
Or like off.
I thought it was in the basement.
It was originally. So they opened the museum in 1952 when the Warrens founded the NESPR, New England Society for Psychic Research. But originally it was in the basement. Their home was built in 1947. So it was built inside their home. They would collect, we were talking earlier that they have like over 750 items in the museum, which is a lot when you think about
yeah.
it. They would collect knickknacks, artifacts that have been quote unquote touched by evil. And then the museum had been closed since Lorraine's passing. So I
Hmm.
don't know if Lorraine had something in with the town, some kind of an agreement, but after she passed, all of a sudden it wasn't zoned properly. So they had them shut it down. So it's been closed since 2019. Um, After the passing of Ed and Lorraine, the museum and the home went to their daughter, Judy, and their son-in-law, Tony. who also took over Nesper. And so they not only took over the home, they took over the team, they also took over the museum. And then before Lorraine passed, Tony had built this empire, it seems like, of The Conjuring. Whoever you talked to, he was the one that, had, and I didn't notice this. I watched the Conjuring movies yesterday, and I didn't notice that the first one actually has both of them in it as well. Has Tony and Lorraine. Second one, I did notice Lorraine. She's like in the front row, but I did not know that Tony was in the first one. He is uncredited, but he is in the movie. So he built this empire up, and that's where more and more of the younger generation became familiar with the Warrens and what, happened in the past. And then comes to what we know today is that a comedian and his friend, who is also like a YouTuber. So Matt Rife, he and Elton, what was his
Castee.
last name? What was it?
Castee.
Okay. Castee. So they purchased the home and the Occult Museum. And the only thing is that they have a lease agreement for 5 years with Judy and Tony, but Judy and Tony own all the artifacts that are in the museum.
Thank God.
So, what it looks like, what Matt wants to do and Elton is that they want to go in and make the home into an Airbnb. And then they want to reopen the museum. So I found an article from the Monroe Sun that was released yesterday, what is today, the 11th, the 10th. And they said that, and this is going by Elton, not Matt. Matt is busy on a project right now, so he's kind of like not going to be around the house until like December. He's got some project and some, he's basically on the road. So Elton's kind of doing all this stuff. And they said that Elton and Matt created an LLC. It's called Haunted Homes LLC. That's their entity that they've created. And they go and they try to buy, haunted homes. So they paid Judy $1 million for their 4-bedroom home that's a contemporary style home with just over a half an acre of land. They didn't say it was to Tony. In the article, it just specifically said Judy, but they paid her $1 million. So we had talked about how it just went like all of a sudden they're in the thing saying that Matt and Elton now own the home and the museum. Well, according to Elton, on April 4th, Dan Rivera, who had just passed from Nesper. He was the one that one of their investigators that passed in Gettysburg in July. On April 4th, Dan Rivera texts Elton saying, "Hey, are you interested in buying a house?" So this has gone back to April that this whole thing started. And then after that initial text, 4 months of Zoom calls with Dan Rivera, Judy and Tony, and Chris, which is Dan's best friend, had gone on. April of 2022, Tony and Nesper chose Elton. Now he's the YouTuber. He would go in and, go to haunted locations. They specifically chose Elton and his podcast team, the overnight podcast team, to be the first to investigate the Warrens' home back in 2022. During that investigation, he raised $520,000 for Feeding America by staying in the house for 5 days, and they were doing a live feed for over 100 hours. So that's the tie between Tony, Dan, Judy, Chris, Matt, and Elton. It went all the way back to 2022. And then that's where Dan found out that, 3 years after that, that Matt and Elton had created an entity called Haunted Homes LLC and found out that they were interested in buying haunted locations. And that's where they're like, hey, we have the Warrens' home. What do you want? Do you want to buy this? Because I guess looking at it, I guess the Warren's home has been kind of like falling apart. He said that they went inside and like I told you, Matt, it hasn't been in the home yet. This is all Elton. He went into the home and in the basement is stacked from floor to ceiling with boxes and totes and stuff of whatever Ed and Lorraine had, full of cobwebs. It's got water damage. So, I mean, it's not like they, have been living, like Nesper hasn't lived in the home. They've just had their meetings and stuff like that in the home when, all this was going on. So I thought that was interesting that that's where the connection came into play. Because everybody's like, where the heck did this come from? How did a YouTuber and a comedian get involved with Nesper? How did that even come into play? Well, that's how.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
and
my reaction too. It was like, this seems a little strange, this combination to be interested in this house. Sorry,
Right.
Heather.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say the only way that I learned about it was actually Matt Rife had started a Facebook Live video and posted on Instagram that he had purchased the home in the museum, and then it was pretty much radio silence from Tony and Judy. And that was following Dan Rivera's passing, which also was pretty much radio silent as far as any type of acknowledgement of what had happened. And then at the same time, they were also on tour with a lot of the objects from the Occult Museum, which I know has also been kind of a big source of contention with some of the family and people in the paranormal community. So it just seemed like a kind of a shock to the system as far as somebody in the paranormal community goes. No one had really been told that the sale was even a possibility. It wasn't until after the sale was completed that people had learned that Matt Rife had tried to purchase the Amityville house, and then he'd also tried to purchase the original house from The Conjuring as well, along with Elton. And they had made several formal letters to the owner, and obviously, we'd heard about I guess you'd call it contention with the Conjuring House and kind of
Mhm.
what was going on with other paranormal groups there, and how their business license was pulled. So it just was kind of a tornado effect, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, we were talking about, the artifacts that were on tour. So Dan Rivera was hosting that tour. So he was kind of in charge of everything that was happening. So some of the things that is in the museum is an alleged vampire's coffin, a child's tombstone that was used as a satanic altar, death curses, demon masks, Annabelle, obviously. So, I mean, some of that stuff they were on the road with. And like you said, Dan was in charge of all that stuff, and then Dan passed and radio silent on that, which I understand, it's a shock. They were on tour, they found him, unalive, as people say, in the hotel. They tried doing CPR on him and to no avail. And then they decided they were going to continue on because they said, quote unquote, Dan would have wanted it this way to continue on with that tour. So that's what they did, which kind of shocked some people too. Like, I think it even shocked us. We kind of had a conversation amongst our team about it of what do you do? You're on tour, and do you stop that tour and confront, everything that's happened? And just say, you know what, I'm sorry, we'll refund you, but one of our family members had passed away and we need to deal with this and we don't know what to do. Or do you keep going because that's what he wanted you to do? And we weren't a part of that inner circle. So, I mean, people deal with things differently. and I'm not saying that what they did was right or wrong. Everybody deals with something differently. You don't know until you're in that situation how you're going to respond. But I think what was the problem was nobody was talking at all.
Right.
And then it was like, wham, he passed away. And then we're going to continue on with the tour. And then, oh, by the way, the Warrens' home is now no longer ours. It's Matt and Elton's.
No
And it
matter
was,
what, I think when they do their show in Rock Island, Illinois, it's probably going to feel like a press conference to the team.
oh,
Everybody's going
sure,
to have questions. And
sure.
do you want to deal with all the logistics of that? Because you're probably going to have half of a show and half of a, whether you want to or not, half your time is probably going to be a repeated Q&A session. Because
Right.
yeah, it just has, I mean, there was that formal statement made from Tony about this is the status of the affairs with the house. But yeah, I mean, there was one or two posts, after Dan passed about a couple of images and things like that from Nesper, but no verbal statement of, you know, here's what's happened, and just try and slice through all the speculation because you see sorts of people saying, "Oh, did Annabelle have a factor in it?" And because the doll's not directly being handled, but you're in interactive connection with this object and other objects, and is it kind of poking the bear? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how October goes with that event.
Right. I watched videos of Matt doing his comedy relief thing. Heather, you did a little bit more background on Matt. You want to tell us a little bit more about him?
Yeah, so Matt Rife, he's an American actor and comedian. He starred in multiple sketch comedy shows, including Wild and Out, which was hosted originally by Nick Cannon. He has comedy specials on Netflix, and after the sale of the home, he claimed he, loves the paranormal and the cult, and he wants to learn more, and he wants to kind of dive deeper into it. Um, and like I said, he had tried to purchase the Amityville Horror House and the Conjuring House unsuccessfully. But it does sound like after you had done the research of, he had created this LLC, that maybe that is the plan for him to purchase more homes and open more of like a Airbnb or tour of some sort
I did
where he
read.
can.
I'm sorry, because I
No,
did
that's
read
okay.
that. I did read that he wants to open up these homes to overnight groups and trying to keep the costs down. He said not like some of these other people who buy these homes and want to charge an arm and a leg. And I think he was probably referring to Cody and whatever
Sam
his
and Cody.
buddy's name is. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that Farrar, which we went to, which to me was relatively decent price,
Mm-hmm.
now it's priced out of this world. You probably couldn't get five people to get the money up to do that. I mean, five regular working people, they want big
Right.
bucks for that now. And I
Well,
know that the article I read, the comedian guy had said, I don't want to do that. I want
mhm,
to make this accessible to people that can go and discover this without having to make it a major vacation.
mhm,
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, and even Elton, that's kind of how he got his start too, being a YouTuber. He kind of rose in fame with being on Vine, and then that's also where Sam and Colby got their start as well. And
Mm-hmm.
he ended up moving into it was like a YouTube uh house, basically the content creator house, and that's where their friendship had began too. So you kind of wonder, um, in a 5 degrees of separation kind of way, like is that kind of where his love of
Well,
paranormal kind of
sure.
started as well?
Mm-hmm.
mhm. Well, and they kind of, I was reading about how Matt and Elton kind of came together, and they, that world can, as we know, the paranormal world gets a little smaller every day, it seems like. But as entertainers and YouTube creators and stuff like that, and influencers, they were meeting up at certain locations. Um, and at one point they were at the same gym. They were like had the same gym membership, and they kind of talked a little bit, and then they found out, hey, I like haunted, stuff and paranormal stuff, and oh, so do I. And that's where that kind of came up into play, as them realizing that they both had the same love for things. And like Steve was saying, you know, when we went to Farrar, yeah, we were there for almost 2 whole days,
Yeah, like
and
3 days. Yeah.
it didn't cost us not even $1,000 for us to
Oh,
be there for 48 hours. Now that Sam and Colby own this thing, they're what, $1,200? Something
$1,200 to
close to
start.
that.
Yeah. And then if you go over so many,
Sorry.
then it kicks up a lot too if you add it like one person.
Right. And we had
You
free
know,
reign of the entire thing. We could come and go. We had the key to lock things up. You know, if we wanted to go into town, we could go into town, come back, let our stuff run or whatever. And we have been there several times in the years that we've been doing this. And Nancy and Jim, who were the owners, the previous owners, they were wonderful people. It just that it got to be too much for them. And so then they sold it to these guys, and these guys have just kind of ruined it for the people that actually go in. And every time I've gone to that location, something new happens. It's not something, we built on it, and what we learned from the first time we investigated that location to, the fifth time that we went to that location. Every single time we learned something new, and we were able to try something new, and we had the time, and it didn't cost us an arm and a leg. But now these
yeah,
guys have created this world of, oh yeah, we own a haunted location, but we're gonna come in, and you can only be there from this time to this time, and you have to use our equipment with our people there. Yeah, you can bring your equipment, but there's certain things that we don't want you to do. And there's so many rules, and I know that they're not the only ones. There's other people that own certain locations
oh
that have done
yeah,
the same thing, where yeah, you get an 8-hour window at this location, and it's a big location. It can take you an hour, hour and a half to set up all your equipment. So now you're down to maybe 6 hours to investigate. And what do you learn in that 6 hours? And they've charged you so much. And now you're like, great, it's going to take me to get, 15, 20 people to come in here, just to be able to afford to investigate this place. And I think that the people that aren't in it for the paranormal research and trying to figure thing out, why things are haunted, what is causing these locations to be haunted, they don't care. They just see it as, I need to get more views so I can get
yeah.
paid from YouTube and Facebook or whatever, that I've got that million followers and I get paid X amount of money, so I don't have to work. I can just have these people come in. I'm gonna have them try to scratch up as much money together as they possibly can, and they get a certain amount of hours in there. So
You
it's
know,
great that Matt says that he doesn't want to do that. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
it is. And well, I just, as a matter of fact, I watched one of the Kobe and what's his face Sam's um, YouTube videos at Farrar, and I saw our name on the board
Oh,
on the
really?
chalkboard. Yeah,
That's awesome.
took me
I'm
like
glad that's
17
still
times
there.
watching it. Yeah, but it eliminates so many groups from wanting to go and visit a place like that. You know how hard it is just to get private, locations. Now, when you have these
Mhm.
public, you know, locations like Farrar and the asylums and stuff, they're pricing themselves out of existence. So you
Right.
won't be able to have anybody go. Like you said, do I know 20 people who want to go and visit a haunted this or that? I mean, and
Right.
then say, yeah, it'll be your cost is going to be $500. So I can go in a building with no heat or air conditioning, or you know what I mean, to bump around in
Right.
the night. I mean, everybody doesn't like that, but you just eliminate so many from trying to participate
And
and
you
It's
get
raising.
too
almost,
many in there, and it's like, well, now you've lost sensibility as to who's made what noise, who's coughed. It's just
Mhm.
sounds like chaos.
When I first
well,
did the asylum the first time, we did a group like that. The second time, we did a half with a group and half we paid extra to be in there by ourselves. But when we were there with a group, there was so many people, and they even broke that down. There must have been 40 people. There was 20 and 20, and we could hear the other group, and it's just like, well, I didn't pay to hear them laughing and giggling, and I was not happy with that, really, because
Right.
I mean that's not cheap. The asylum's not cheap, but now it's even more that they completely own that, and they own the other thing, and
Well, and that's the thing. As people are buying more of these locations, and then they're like, oh, well, we're gonna upcharge you. And I get it. I understand that it's not cheap to own these locations. I
right,
understand that. You got the upkeep of the building. You have to, have electricity in it, or you don't. And you just have to have people bring in generators or however they're going to do things. Um, then you also have property taxes, you know, insurance and stuff. Like, I understand that the costs can get a little bit more expensive, but at some point, though, you have to realize you bought that location for a reason. You bought that location for people to come in so that they can understand the paranormal world. And, as us researching the paranormal world, why do we experience these things? Why has some of this stuff happened to us? Well, that's what we go in and we find out. Sometimes we can go back and, like we did at Ferraro, and we can debunk things. Oh, yeah, this happened. Okay, this is why it happened. But when you have so much, and I don't want to keep going on a tangent about it, but when you've priced it out so high, those of us that do this field, we want to be able to get into your location, but at what cost, though? I understand if you want to have a tour, but those of us that want to do a paranormal investigation, bring that price down for us, because you want to understand what's happening at your building. It's not an attraction like a haunted house. If that's the case, then open it up like a haunted
the
house,
haunted house, yeah, right.
And do it that way. But for us that are coming in and investigating, you have also investigated, so you know what it costs too and what it takes. And yeah, we don't have big TV crews coming behind us and, like Discover Channel or Travel Channel
Yeah.
coming in and saying, here's your check. I'm going to take your location for the next week. Yeah, we don't
Yep.
have that.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of become this weird business model of like content creation and paranormal elite, basically, with, I, the average team is not going to have $1 million to spend on a haunted location, opening it up. We've talked several times about, can we get into a place where we can kind of establish ourselves, and continue to have those experiences. Like I know you had mentioned you had gone back to Farrar several times, and every time was something different, and I feel like if it had not changed hands at that point, you could have come to those owners and said, hey, we were here on this day and this is what happened. And then we came back 6 months later and this is what happened. And then they can start to build a base of kind of understanding of what they're kind of dealing with versus some of these YouTube creators, content creators, kind of paranormal elite, as I like to call them, who just want the views, the clicks, the money.
right.
And it's not really fair to small groups like us who, we're trying to do this because we love it, not because we're trying to make money off of it.
Right. What celebrities can we bring into our location to make us more popular? It's
Yeah.
not about, if that's the case, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. And you cannot call yourself a paranormal investigator at that point. You might as well just call yourself a production company, because that's
Yep.
all you're doing and that's all you want. You want your location to be on as many TV channels as possible, as many social media platforms as possible. Then you're not an investigator and you're basically a fraud at that point. Sorry. I mean, that's just my opinion. You're money hungry at that point. Um, and you're making it very difficult for those of us that are trying to go around and figure out why we are in this field. Like I started this because I started my team because it was a calling. I had a calling, started when I was little. So I've been chasing that. Why did this happen to me when I was, 7 years old? Why do I have these things that keep happening? That's what drives me as an investigator. What is causing that haunting? And why is it still here? Those things. But the other locations that are doing this, that they're raising it, and it doesn't sound like Matt wants to do that, which I hope him and Elton are sticking to their guns on this whole thing and saying, yeah, we're going to fix up this house. We want it to be an Airbnb. We want that legacy to continue on. And we want the museum to continue on and people to learn about, what the Warrens had gone through and what the cases were and stuff like that. I hope that is what is going to happen, and that, they are true to their word. We'll see. Um, you had talked about, Heather, you had talked about them contacting the Conjuring House. And I didn't find anything about the Amityville one per se, but I did find about the Conjuring House. They did try to contact the owner, which is Jacqueline Nunez. And you'd said that they had their license pulled. Last year, the property did have their license stripped to no longer operate as a business by the town, and it was due to missing paperwork and the erratic behavior of the owner at the time.
Yeah.
And so they did try to contact her to buy the property from her, but she just would not return their phone calls.
Correct.
And Matt actually owns a home not too far away from the Conjuring, which makes sense why he would go and say, I wanted to buy this home first, because it sounds like he went there first before he went to the Warrens.
Yep.
Yeah. But, as we all have seen in the past, Jacqueline, the owner of the Conjuring House, currently, she has been in the news for a multitude of things, and she's got her own problems going on. But it's not like he is just like, yeah, it's a Conjuring House, I'm just gonna buy it. No, he actually lives in the area, and he truly wanted to buy the home because he saw that it was kind of suffering, it sounds like, and he was trying to make the situation turn positive again instead of the negative. Yeah. Elton, you want to tell us a little bit about Elton? I mean, we kind of touched on him a little bit.
Yeah, so Elton, who is associated with Matt, he's a YouTuber and entertainer, social media influencer. He's mostly famous for being on Vine. Like I said, he had met Sam and Colby during the height of Vine when they had a content creation house. Yeah, I believe it was in California, and had kind of sparked his friendship with them and his interest in the paranormal. Later, after leaving the content creation house, he made a travel blog that included like extreme daily activities. So like alligator wrestling, driving a tank, launching off a mega ramp, shooting rocket launchers, like stuff like that. Just like really extreme stuff that I think most 20-year-old men are, I was gonna say most 20-year-old men really are like gung-ho about. So,
sounds like my son's hero right there.
Yeah. And so he was actually one of the ones when Matt was originally trying to buy the Conjuring house, he was the one who wrote up the formal letter offering for purchase, actually. And then he said to I believe it was the Connecticut Sun or the Connecticut Times, that she had not responded, and he had tried several times, I guess, then to purchase and to make contact with her, but she was not taking any of their letters or offers very seriously. So that was kind of where they had hit a dead end there.
Yeah. It sounds like the Conjuring house just sounds like a nightmare just to deal with that to begin with. But
it's a large property too. I believe it's over 200 acres. So and you get a lot of people trying to come onto the property because of its history. Mm-hmm. And with the Warrens home, that's going to be something that they're going to be challenged with zoning, because I think that was one complaint that the neighbors had, was we get a lot of passerby traffic over here. It's not a home anymore. It's
right.
It's an attraction. It's an attraction. Yeah. So it's a hurdle they'll have to overcome with the Warrens house.
Well, according to Elton, and this was also, I think, in the Providence Journal, either that or the Monroe Sun, I don't remember which one it was, But he said that they're working with the Monroe town officials, Matt and Elton, currently preparing a zoning application to open a new occult museum in a commercial building. So it's not going to stay in the museum that it's in right now. But they're not saying exactly where, but it's supposed to be on Main Street. And they said that, the reason that they want to do the Airbnb and create, the different location is that it brings in people for the town, brings money in, generates more money. Yeah, I understand the paranormal field. We tend to go past homes that are haunted and we're like take pictures and stuff like that, and it's just what we do. We're kind of weird that way.
I do it all the time.
Yeah,
It's so mad. I say, stop the car. What's the
right.
matter?
I did the same.
You know that house. You know that house is haunted.
I took the kids out to Silver Lake and I was like, you guys want to see the Amityville house that,
Yep.
Ryan Reynolds was at? This is the home. And I'm out there taking pictures and everything. Yeah, I know it's an invasion of people's privacy, but they kind of embrace it now. But the same thing with the township of Monroe, they're like, I understand that you live here and yes, it's going to be a nuisance kind of thing, but if they can do it in the correct way, people are going to be staying at the home and then they go out and they go shopping downtown. And I don't know how big
Yeah.
Monroe actually is. Do you know how big it is at all, Heather?
I don't, but I can definitely find out. Let
Yeah,
me
I don't
Google.
know how big it is, but they're like, they're going to go to the restaurants, they're going to go shopping. If they've got the museum, they're going to be down there anyway. So, I mean, you're generating things, and it's not like you're going to have, I mean, maybe at first you're going to have a bunch of people, but then it's going to dwindle down. And then, it's just going to be like the passerbys. They already said that they're going to have heavier security on the home. So I mean, and that would be with the neighborhood itself too, that they're being respectful of the people. So they know that there's going to be some issues, but they're dealing with those issues as they come along. Because they know that people do have to live there. So, you know,
Yeah,
it is what
so
it is.
it looks like as of the 2020 census, the population in Monroe, Connecticut was 18,825 people.
Oh, so it's a
So
lot bigger than I thought.
yeah, yeah.
I was
It
thinking it was about
is
4,000 people, but
18,000 is about 26.3 square miles total.
okay.
So pretty condensed in there, I would think.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so
So I mean, there has some stuff that they can do with 18,000 people that live in the home or in the townships. I mean,
hopefully not in the
the
home.
home. Oh my God, the people would be like spilling out of the
A
thing.
little bit of a
Um,
squeeze.
yeah,
Mhm.
but I mean, I think that they also want to, preserve the home as well. They're not, I'm sure it's going to be very strict rules that they'll have in the home and stuff like that. And applications are going to have to put in the applications for that property of whoever's going to stay there. You can't take the curtain down or clip the curtain saying, "Oh, I got the Warren's curtain," or the wallpaper or
Hmm.
whatever craziness that people will do.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be like some sort of vetting process of some sort. You
Mhm.
fill out like a questionnaire of like, why do you want to stay here? What are your intentions? Here's a background check that you have to do to make sure you're not someone who has ill intentions.
Right, right. And I know that they have like the gazebo in the backyard that Ed had made for Lorraine. They show it in the third Conjuring movie that's still there. So I mean, yeah, there's going to be things that they're going to want to preserve and they're going to want to do their due diligence of, making sure that that is taken care of. Um, Tony and Judy, we said they still own the artifacts inside the museum. I don't know about inside the home too. If
I
that,
I I think that none of the artifacts are actually in the home anymore, because of the on the road show, and then they've been storing them probably at another location. It didn't mention anything about any of them being stored there due to the ill repair of the house, I believe. So I think that a lot of them are actually off-site from where they originally were, due to the disrepair of the house.
Yeah, and I think it was 2021 that they started the first Paracon where they brought Annabelle out. And I remember asking Tony, because I went to that Paracon and um, had asked about will they ever open the museum? And what he had said goes hand in hand with what these two guys are looking to do. Like he wanted a commercial space that was secure and safe, that it could be more accessible to the public. So maybe this is potentially what aligns with what he's looking for. So,
Yeah, because
I mean,
it sounds like they're just leasing the property. They didn't actually go out and buy it forthright and like that's theirs now. It's
No,
just
I
that
thought
they're
No,
leasing
it's
it.
theirs.
Is
the
it
The
house is
theirs
property,
now?
there.
the
Yeah,
property itself is theirs. The
yeah.
the objects are leased. So
Okay.
5-year lease. It's a 5-year lease on the objects. I don't
Okay.
know what happens with them after 5 years. They don't really make that clear, or at least what I read. I didn't read that much, but I know it's a 5-year lease on the objects.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't clear if it was like the property and the items or if it was just the items. That makes sense though, that they, paid $1 million for the property.
Yeah.
Um, but Tony and Judy, we kind of talked about them. They're the owners and operator of Nesper now. Judy has some psychic abilities, kind of like her mom, but she doesn't really want to tap into it. I think she doesn't want to get into um that realm like her mom did. Maybe because she's seen what her mom had gone through, so she doesn't want to further that knowledge into her abilities. Um, and then Tony, he's like the main face of Nesper. At least it seems like he is.
oh yeah, definitely.
Him and Dan kind of went hand in hand. It seemed like when you saw one, you saw the other one. It seemed like, at least in the last couple of years. Uh, but he contributed to most of the recent Conjuring movies, like we talked about earlier. And the newest film is supposed to be coming out September 5th of this year. Uh, that's supposed to be The Last Rites, I believe it's called. I
Yep.
could be
How
wrong.
old are they? How old is this Tony and Judy?
Jeez,
I think they're in their
they're up
60s,
there.
50s.
I'd Google it, but I know you guys are already in it. And
Yeah, I just wonder because I mean they got to be kind of up there in age, right?
I
I
would
mean
assume so because, Lorraine
they
was
He's
in
were,
her
71.
90s.
so they are.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
71 for both of
Oh.
them?
yeah.
Or
Tony's 71.
okay.
And Judy is 75.
Okay. So yeah, I mean I get it. They're not getting any younger. I know that, she's got children too. Judy does. Um, but well, Judy and Tony, I believe, have a daughter together, but Judy has a son from a previous relationship,
Yeah,
um, which is Chris. And
yeah,
I think her daughter's name is Heather too, but I'm not positive. But after the announcement of the Warrens home, the sale of it, Tony and Judy remained quiet, like we talked about. It was like Matt had posted something and we're all waiting to hear from Tony and Judy, and there was like nothing for
nothing.
it seemed like at least 2 weeks, if not a little bit longer.
Yeah,
And then it was just like, yeah, this is true. Yes, this is this. Yes, this is this. Yes, this is it. And that was kind of what Tony had put out there. Um, and then, he kind of put it on the social media that, yes, Matt is, because we all thought, oh, this is a prank. Ha ha, funny, funny, because it's come from a comedian. Yes, you bought, the Warrens home, whatever. But no, in actuality, that's a true thing. So he was like, yes, we did sell this. They do now own it or whatever. Um, and then, yes, in here it says that they're leasing the haunted objects for 5 years, but they remain the owners of it, the Nesper family and the Spera family. Um, so I mean, it all just went like I said, like a dominoes effect. There was the Annabelle thing that happened in Louisiana. It was what was it? The fire that happened down there during the
This is why I switched to induction.
um there was like a fire that went on, and then Annabelle supposedly went missing or whatever. So Annabelle was on tour. She is always the big hit when they do these paracons and they go on the tour. So while they were touring with some of the haunted objects, lead investigator Dan Rivera had passed away unexpectedly in his hotel in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Annabelle is one of the most famous objects that they own and that they bring along. Um, and unfortunately, that was what was with them when Dan had passed away. And they really just did not talk about the passing of Dan. He was only 54. He was an Army vet, a husband, a father. He died July 13th. And he was hosting the Devils on the Run tour with Annabelle. And they found him deceased in the hotel room. They are doing an autopsy on him, but they're not going to have the results back for 60 to 90 days, it sounds like, according to the Adams County coroner. But they don't suspect anything suspicious. They even said Annabelle was not in the hotel room at the time. So there wasn't anything at the time that they saw the body and dealt with everything. They didn't see anything that was suspicious. Nesper did put out a little thing on social media. They said it was with deepest sadness that Tony, Wade, and I share the sudden passing of our close friend and partner, Dan Rivera. We are heartbroken and still processing this loss. Dan truly believed in sharing his experience and educating people on the paranormal. His kindness and passion touched everyone who knew him. Thank you for your support and kind thoughts during this difficult time. So that was the release, the press release that they sent out after he had passed away. But that was about it, and that they were going to continue on with the tour.
I just think it's so interesting because from everything that I've read, it's about Annabelle. Like Ed and Lorraine really did not want Annabelle leaving the home. It felt very, very unsafe and like really just wanted to protect the public from whatever was going on with Annabelle. And so the fact that they take the doll on tour is just really bizarre to me. And then to be kind of, I guess, playing into the fear that Annabelle was missing, and that they were like okay with blaming the doll for a fire, and like then the sudden passing of Dan, and then they just don't say anything. So it just kind of seemed like a snowball effect of them kind of trying to drum up more business for this tour with all these objects. And I was kind of disheartened, I guess, is the best word for it, of like how they've been treating these objects and like kind of how they've been using it to their advantage in a
Well,
weird way.
and the
Yeah.
silence now, so I apologize for the music blast there for a second, but I subscribe to the YouTube channel that Tony usually posts on, and Tony does usually give and inform of certain things through that channel in addition to Facebook, but there's just nothing there. So it's just
It's
it just
odd.
feels out of character
Mm-hmm.
from what I've seen from the social media presence from Tony and his team. I'm sure there's a lot of emotion running and logistics of, well, now we're a key man down, and what do we do with a lot of things, especially now that the house is being sold, and
Mm-hmm.
it's probably a bit of chaos, but I just wish Tony would make a more of a public,
And I think that's,
longer public statement.
where we talked about, we don't know what we would do unless we were in that situation. That this might be normal for them, and dealing with the loss of Dan. I mean, it's also a loss of Ed and Lorraine again. They sold the
Yeah.
home. So I mean, it's not like they can just go back to Ed and Lorraine's kitchen and table and sit around with Nesper and just, hash things out and figure out what they're going to do. Because I mean, that was like a big thing. They kind of all just hung out at Ed and Lorraine's house, and they
Yeah.
did all their family functions as a big family. Nesper would bring, the spouses in, the kids in. They would just all hang out and just do their thing. So I guess, they're reeling from that loss too. Like, I don't know if it happened as fast as they thought it was going to, or not fast enough, or I don't know what their thought process was. I know that Ed and Lorraine's grandson, Judy's son, Chris McKennell, he doesn't live in the country. I think I want to say he lives in New Zealand, but I could be wrong on that one. I know he does not live in the country, but he was upset. And he finally broke silence of, he went on social media about his disappointment through this whole thing of, this is not what my grandparents wanted. This was not how their legacy was supposed to be, where it was supposed to be at this point. They didn't want these objects to be on tour. They were there to educate people, to help people, and he's like, this has just gone way beyond all that. And that's not what my grandparents, and he's like, now you sold the family home and I didn't even know about it, and I'm their grandson, and I get it. You don't have to tell your kids everything that you're doing in your life. You're adults. If you want to, you inherited something, you want to get rid of it, that's your choice. But most of us would talk to our family, our immediate family, and go, okay, this is my thought process. What do you guys think? I don't really want to make you mad, but I mean, I want you to be around to know what's happening, because in, a certain time, I'm not going to be here. It's going to fall to you anyway. And I think
Yeah,
that's
there's
what
just
he's upset about, that he was not involved in the decision or told about the decision until it already happened. So he's like, that was my grandparents' home and I used to hang out there and I have all these memories, and now they're gone. I can't go see my grandparents' house anymore. And, it's just not the same. That my safe place is not there anymore for me, which I get. But again, he is the grandchild. Did he need to be in on that thing? I'm not his parent. Um, I don't know what Judy, because Judy is his mom. Tony is his stepdad. So, I mean, it sounds like him and Tony don't have a very good relationship from what I've gathered from seeing the videos from Chris, and his posts and stuff like that. It doesn't sound like they're very close, but I don't know how close he is with his mom anymore either. So maybe that's why she's like, you moved out of the country. I don't need to tell you what's happening in my life. I don't know. There's too much speculation on that one. But he's not happy.
Well, I mean, I read that, how he's not happy about that. But on the other hand, his parents are 75 and 71, and they get $1 million. They can live it up for the time they got left. And that's the truth.
Well,
You
it
run
is.
into
Yeah,
that.
you're right, because there's other celebrities that have gone out. Like the one that comes to mind is Sean Connery. He didn't leave anything to his kids.
Yep.
He's like, no, you want to make it in this world, you make it on your own. You're not getting any of my money. I'm gonna either use it myself or I'm gonna send it to charity, but you're not getting any of it,
And I guess as we sit here and talk about this, and I've heard how many times that the place was in such disrespect, disrepair, this home of theirs. But on the other flip side, this group still has their meetings there and they hang out there. And well, why aren't they taking care of it?
Right.
I don't know why that pops into my head, but I mean, it seems kind of odd that they meet there, they have their holidays there, the families hang out, everybody's there, but the house is a pile of shit. I mean, I don't get it. Why are they taking care of it?
I think the permit part of it was that it was unsafe for people to walk through. I think as a home, it probably could still operate just fine. I'm coming from a place of like, I'm a grandchild who lost a grandparent recently, and I feel very much like my safe place was pulled out, like my rug was pulled up from underneath me when my aunt decided to sell my grandparents' house, and like I didn't get a say in it, and those were my memories that I had of her. And I guess I could kind of identify more with Chris on that aspect of like not so much of it's a business, but those are like my memories, and like I was basically not told that like I will no longer be able to attend those things.
I know, I understand that. But on the other hand, and I'm just going to be the devil's advocate about all this, which I like to do.
Poke that bear, Steve.
Yeah. Well, if he was so worried about it, was he there all the time? Was he in contact with them? Was he, did all of a sudden
Right.
now that his mom's got $1 million in her pocket, now he's worried about the house?
Right.
You don't hear anything about that.
And I haven't heard
know.
anything from her daughter. Her daughter hasn't said anything, but then too, her daughter hasn't really said anything to begin with. I don't think
Right.
her daughter is involved with any of the Nesper stuff.
No.
But he stated that he said that this has turned into a sideshow attraction, and that he
Yeah.
feels like that it's not in line with the Warrens' legacy
I understand.
set out by his grandparents. Which
would think even if it wasn't someone taking commercial advantage, like Heather said, with her family and everything else, yeah, you're going to be sad about it, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to unsell it.
Right.
Or,
I mean, and you're a grown
and you don't
adult. He
even
lives in
know-
another country. I mean, it's
Right.
not like he's going to be, going down the street to go see them or,
Right.
Well-
visit the house or stay there.
And, again, do we even know, did they offer him to buy the house?
I mean, $1 million is a lot of money for the average person. I can't name a single person who could be able to afford $1 million home in this day and age with this economy here.
Right.
I can, unfortunately. Not me, but name names.
I
But
mean,
I have some, yeah. But you
it-
know what though? So I don't know. I get where he's coming from, but I think there's a lot of other things involved that we won't know about.
Right. That's the
You know
thing.
what I mean?
It's like there's so much family dynamic that we don't know about. I mean, I didn't even know that she had a son. I mean, I'm friends with Judy and Tony on Facebook. Especially with after I had purchased the bracelet from Judy. She sent me a nice letter and everything, thanking me and all that stuff. And then we became friends on Facebook. But I never see her post anything about her son. I've seen her post pictures and stuff and events with her daughter and Tony, but I never had ever seen anything about Chris. And so I don't know where the family dynamic is when it comes to Chris.
Yeah.
Like, is he the black sheep of the? He sounds like he's the black sheep of the family, but he also is the one that follows in his grandparents' footsteps of teaching people and investigating the way his grandfather.
Does he do that as well? Yeah.
Yeah, but outside the country.
Yeah. Right.
But again, we're not them. We don't know how they're going to react, and yeah, I get it. You pass away, what do you do with your belongings? You have that will, and then it goes to your kids or whoever you're sending it to. There has to be that line of succession of this is where my belongings are going to go. They're not, if I don't have it, they're all going to go into like a storage unit and then goes to circuit court for whoever wants to fight over it after I'm no longer here. They've come across of, I have an opportunity to sell my parents' property and the business, and we're getting older, so let's do it while we got a chance,
Right. Yeah.
So,
I don't fault anybody for that, honestly. I mean, like you said, they're in their 70s, and it's not like they're going to be having the time or energy to, go live there. I'm sure they have their own home and their own lives outside of that. So, a business opportunity is a business opportunity. I think the radio silence, the social media silence is where it became hard to take it seriously of like what's really going on here. And you don't want to be the person to speculate, but we're paranormal investigators. We have to be a little skeptical and a little speculative to find out what's going on. And when nobody's really given us a full answer, it's hard to say like, oh yeah, this is for sure.
Right. And it's like, oh, well, first of all, I didn't even know that it was on the market. Could
Yep.
any of us have gotten into it? No, I'm
Right.
kidding.
Right. Yeah. I'd move to
Um,
Connecticut. Why not?
right. You
Right.
know, I mean,
It's beautiful there.
it just seemed very impromptu of what was happening at the time. And it was like, is there something that we're all missing? What's happening here?
Well,
But
maybe with Dan's passing, that's probably maybe that was kind of the calling of let's do some of the things we've been talking about and just be done.
right. I
Right.
mean, they've been talking about it for a while because Dan was involved in that conversation, but maybe that kind of like hit home of he is almost 20 years younger than us. In fact, he is 20 years younger than Judy, and he has passed. So now what? Like, Father Time is not on our side anymore. What do we do? We were kind of in
Yeah.
this conversation before, but now it's like, maybe we should really sit down and talk to these two and see if they're really serious about this because we need to think about our future as well. I mean, I don't think that Judy and Tony are hurting for money, especially with the Conjuring series that's been out there. And then with all the tours and stuff like that, I'm sure that they're very comfortable in their living arrangements and stuff. But I think that it's one less thing that they have to worry about. Like it's no longer, I don't have to worry about who is going to break into my mom's house. She's no
Yeah.
longer there, stuff like that. Or I don't
Yeah,
have to worry
that
about the upkeep of it. I can just go and cut my lawn and not cut their lawn too.
Mhm. Let
Or,
me ask you,
okay,
excuse me one second. Let me ask Kevin and Heather. When Kathy moves her head, do you guys see that silver aura around her head, or is that just me?
No, I see it.
You see that? Okay, good. Thank you.
there you go. I moved for it. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Because they don't. This doesn't happen when they move their heads. Only
Well, I'm
you.
in my basement right now. Well, my office is always in my basement, but I had to move because my daughter is going through her teenage years, so she likes her music really loud. She doesn't have a hearing problem like her mom because I've, firefighter for so many years, I have no hearing left with sirens. So I moved out of my office, which is outside her room, into my family room, and so my lighting is a little different here, but it's also the haunted basement, so.
There you go. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was freaking
No.
me out.
it's okay. Hey,
Look,
better ask
if
than
I
to
just see
assume.
like the shadow go by, like you had, Steve, that one time.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I still freak out on that.
Yeah. So I mean, the kids always see like a shadow figure down here in the basement. So I'm waiting for that to show up for me, but it still hasn't worked on command. So I guess I'm not doing the right thing around here. I don't know.
At least I
But
didn't feel like I was followed today.
You did or you didn't?
Did not.
Oh,
Usually
so
every day. Sorry. We'll talk
no,
about
that's
that
okay.
another time.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
me too. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt and change the subject, but
no. So it kind of goes into it because we were talking about earlier with the whole Ozzy thing. And Scott and I know it's not the Warren conversation. Scott and I were watching Ozzy and Jack's World Detour. I don't know if you guys ever saw
I
that
was just
show.
watching that yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a part that they start off in the Key West, and where they go to see Robert.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Robert, like Ozzy, Prince of Darkness, but he is not a fan of Robert. Let me just tell you. And the man
No,
is
I
not a
know.
fan.
Yeah.
And so he's like, what the heck? Now, I think, Kevin, do you have the same Robert doll that I do, right? Or is yours
I
a little
sure
bit
do.
bigger? You have the
He's
same.
still in the box though. I've not physically touched my Robert.
See, now I
He's
have, and
Yep.
my Robert now is up in his own little box hanging in my office with, I had to do like an Annabelle thing with him.
He's in a jail cell.
He's like in a little jail cell. He's got some holy relics around him because the last time, and I know you can hear me, Robert, because we're in the same vicinity. Um, we did a podcast about Robert. I literally had to write him a letter going, I am so sorry, sir. Because everything kind of went wonky after that episode. So I wrote him a letter. It's currently under his butt right now. But I had to put like holy stuff out like around him because I'm like, sir, you're no joke sometimes, man. And then we started watching that episode, and Scott's like, isn't that the same one you have downstairs? And I go, it is. And he goes, see, Ozzy is right. That thing is evil. And I'm like, no, he's not evil. He just misunderstood. And then there's an episode where like Ozzy starts kicking Robert like in a parking lot. And then he tried burying him on a beach in Hawaii.
Yes.
Jeez.
And so Scott just kept going, I feel your pain, Ozzy. I know what you're going through. And I'm like, you just need to stop. So I guess we have our own haunted object. It's not Annabelle. We have Robert. And for those of you that have purchased Robert, the replica of Robert, you must have got the same thing as the rest of us, that Robert the doll in Key West had to approve you to get his replica. And that you have to acknowledge him and you have to ask permission to take his picture, talk about him, blah, 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 whatever it is. My poor Bella, who is outside my door right now, will bark at I have like a little, he came with like a postcard, but it's a picture of Robert's face, and I put it in a frame. She will bark at that thing. She does not like it at all. And I'm like, now I'm like, okay, am I starting my own little haunted objects in my office now? Is she like, or is he turning into like Annabelle in my office right now? Do I need to like build him a big box and put him in there just like Annabelle? I don't know.
Get your
But
white sage.
right. I'm not I'll have to take a picture of it and I'll post it on our social media. What I had to do with Robert. I love him, but the boy needed to have some stuff put around him because he was just not playing nice with us. So hopefully we have made our peace with him. Just like Annabelle, maybe they didn't have like peace with Annabelle. I don't know. But yeah.
Oh, that's happening, Heather?
Am I cutting out? See?
Yeah, just when you're talking about you know who.
See, Robert.
Be really careful. We don't need another fire, Kathy.
Right. I'm telling you, I had a fire in my office too. I'm not joking.
Nope. You better start writing another letter. You better get.
I know, right? I'm gonna have to do that now. Sorry, Robert.
Greetings from Connecticut.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, yeah, don't mess with Annabelle either if you're gonna go see her, because if he's doing that and this is a replica, don't mess with Annabelle either. Not worth it.
Treat the objects with respect.
Right. I'm not saying they're actually haunted or whatever, but there's some strange things that happen around these things, these objects.
Yeah. I know. I think it was Matt Rife he had like a Facebook live video or something where he was talking about the house and like what he was planning on doing. And a former employee had come on the live and said, I highly recommend that you don't do this because the objects that were stored there is still some type of energy or spirit or something that is attached to that house. And if you plan on having people come through there, you are going to have to cleanse that house daily because they are not happy.
Yeah. And I can understand that, they're not there to be on display for people's amusement. I mean, they're supposed to be there and be protected, but
protect the community. That was the other thing. That was the main reason why they took certain objects. Ed and Lorraine had removed objects from people's homes because they wanted to protect people, not because they wanted to go on tour and be like, oh, I'll pay $8 to see this.
Right.
Well, Matt and Elton, if you're listening, I'd be happy to be one of the first people to stay in the house. I'll give it a shot.
Right. We'll come in and we'll just investigate as well and see if you do need a cleansing or not. And we'll be your test dummies.
Yeah.
There you go. You,
We'll be the
you game for it,
test
Steve?
Heck yeah.
There you go.
I
Everybody's
mean, it's a
in.
4-bedroom home. There's 4 of us right now, so
Right.
we'll each take a room and we will give you our honest opinion about the location. So Matt,
if
if
you
you are
want,
listening or Elton are listening, we will be your test dummies.
I'm ready. Let's go. I got
Yeah.
nothing to do.
I got PTO. Let's do it.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, I think we've kind of hit all the topics of the Warren House and the museum. I'm sure there's going to be more information coming out soon that, we haven't not touched on or didn't know about yet. So it's like an ongoing thing, but we're excited to find out what Matt and Elton are planning on doing with the home. Hopefully, like we said, it's going to be a positive thing.
Yeah, I
So
hope they stick to what they say they're going to do,
yeah, absolutely. So we wish them the best. We will be their test dummies if they are open to it. But I guess until we find out any more information on it, we're gonna end this conversation about it. So our skeptics, keep us grounded. For our believers, keep believing. And Kathy, have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.